Megalopolis, the movie that took 50 years to make. Should have took 50 more, am I right? If you've seen the discourse around this movie, it either stems from, wow, this looks really interesting, to what the fuck was he thinking doing that? Can this man ever make a production without any drama?
Boom, 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 boom! Hit the rolling store with the rollie on.
Megalopolis is a movie that has a lot to say about everything. Politics, creativity, artists, creation, and all this other stuff. But it doesn't say anything important. It doesn't really take a stance on anything. And that is kind of the bigger issue I have with this movie. And look, you can talk about the weird editing choices and the dialogue and stuff, that's fair. But I didn't really mind most of the dialogue in this movie. I actually think a lot of it is kind of snappy. It kind of reminded me a little bit of George Lucas a little bit. The first act and the second act are actually pretty good. I was actually really sticking with it. It's pretty surprisingly self-aware for a movie that's really being called pretentious. It's actually kind of unpretentious in a lot of parts, and it's really funny and kind of charming in parts that aren't Shia LaBeouf and Aubrey Plaza. I'm getting ahead of myself, but yeah, I actually really liked it. I thought Adam Driver was as charming as ever. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce her name because I'm not gonna butcher that poor woman's name. She's pretty great in the movie. I actually like them. Their scenes together are actually my favorite scenes in the movie. I'm not even gonna lie. I thought the visuals were really great. There's one visual in the movie, it kind of blew my mind a little bit. Too bad the movie kind of peaked at that moment with the special effects. But I'm getting ahead of myself once again. The concept of a man trying to build a city, a utopia, but everybody's trying to stop him is a really interesting concept. The movie isn't really interested in that concept. It wants to do these other things, and it's not meshing well with the main central story. There are things that happen in this story that come and go so fast that it gives you a little bit of a whiplash. There's major things that happen within this story that just kind of happen, and then they just kind of skip over it like it's not really that important. Or there is something that happens, especially in the ending of the second act, going into the third act, that's really major, and you're like, okay, how is he gonna get out of this? And it's so odd how the third act of this movie plays out. Like the characters talk in a certain way, but the world is really interesting to watch, and it's kind of a blend of modern times, but also a blend of sort of this weird futuristic type thing going on for it. I think the world itself is actually really interesting. I just don't think Francis Ford Coppola had all his chips in the right place. This movie is just so unfocused about what it wants to say. You know, you think of a movie that's about building a utopia, you would think they would talk about things like the housing crisis or climate change or billionaires wasting their money on certain things while poor people are suffering. The poor people in the city. But it doesn't take a stance on that. It sort of ponders. Unironically, it literally insists upon itself. It insists upon itself. It doesn't really plan itself on its, like, stand on business about what it wants to say. All it can really say is, hey, we should be talking about stuff. And then that's it. That's literally the message of the movie. We should be talking about stuff. And look, we should talk a lot about stuff. It's so frustrating to watch a movie with so much potential, because this story is actually really interesting, but it just refuses to take any kind of sort of stance about what it's trying to say with these characters, with this world, with this city, which, guys, I must say something. That city, the CGI in this movie is actually really bad. It's really bad. For somebody who's went, I don't want this to be a Marvel movie. This movie kind of ends like a Marvel movie, if I'm being really honest with you. I'm not talking like about explosions and shit like that. It just ends on this like weird CGI element. I don't know if they just ran out of budget for the CGI, but it does feel like they ran out of budget for CGI. And it really does feel like in a lot of moments they just didn't have enough time to film certain things. And so they just made these montages and sort of zip through them. I'm not sure if you realize this through this review. This movie's a mess. But it's an interesting mess to watch. Because his heart's in the right place. Coppola's heart is in the right place. He seems to really care about the Roman history. But, like, it's not really told in a really unique way where it feels like it justifies, like, it being so, like, cryptic about what it's trying to say. And I don't get what you're trying to tell me, Coppola. What are you trying to tell me? And I'm not asking the movie to tell me right out. I'm like, just give me something. Give me some breadcrumbs. Because this movie, oh my God.
I done told you! Take your drunk ass home!
One of the worst performances in 2024. I'm not even lying to you. He's the worst antagonist I've ever seen in any story ever. His role in this movie is so fucking useless and so unnecessary and drags the entire damn movie down. Every time they cut to him, I just let out the hugest fucking sigh. This man is so useless in the grand scheme of this story. And look, I understand what he's trying to represent, but at the exact same time, he held the fucking story up with his fucking shenanigans. Him and Aubrey Plaza. Now, Aubrey Plaza, I'll give a slight, like, excuse for. It seems like she was directed to act the way that she acts. I mean, she seems to be having fun, at least. I think Shia LaBeouf was 100% taking this shit seriously, like he always fucking does. This man has been OD ever since he did fucking Fury. Yeah, you remember the tooth fiasco, right? Yeah, this guy's the fucking... Also, you know what? I'm going off topic. CJ, stay on topic. Stay on topic. Jon Voight. This man has some sort of form of dementia, I think. This man is a zombie walking through this fucking movie. This man, he's just so lifeless. It feels like they were doing him like... You see that movie Dead Silence where... his fucking dad was being puppeted the whole fucking movie and he was actually dead. That's what fucking Jon Voight felt like. It felt like somebody was puppeteering him. Don't even get me started on fucking Dustin Hoffman, who's barely in the fucking movie, only to give like a few one-liners, and then he just fucking leaves and just dies. These elements drag the entire movie. These characters drag this entire movie. Having this weird conflict. And what's even crazier is that Giancarlo Esposito is sort of the main antagonist to our main character. But their dynamic between each other is way more interesting than whatever fake fucking dynamic is between Shia LaBeouf or him. Because his motivation to try to stop Adam Driver's character is so fucking by the numbers boring and so uninteresting and so boring compared to Giancarlo Esposito's reasoning, which is actually a lot more complex and way more interesting. It's so what was even the point of his character in this fucking movie? Why is he there? Who mans is this? Who let this nigga in the door? There's a lot of the first act and the second act that is just Adam Driver and the woman and Giancarlo Esposito. Those three kind of carry this whole movie. And then we get to the third act, which is mostly Shia LaBeouf and Aubrey Plaza.
Nigga, what the fuck are you doing?
And Jon Voight. And I'm telling y'all, I almost blew a fucking... Oh my fucking God! The whole third act is just awful. Any goodwill I had for the first and second act, out the fucking window. This is one of the worst fucking third acts I ever seen. Okay? Like, literally in my entire life. It is such a mess of a third act. It feels like they got to a point where they were like, okay, we're gonna explore all these ideas. But there's, like, the thing about this movie is that it wants to have this weird conflict at the end of the story. But There is no conflict in this movie.
Hey, you know they got your mans. They got your mans on sex assault charges. Yeah, the nigga you be hanging with.
There's one specific plot line that isn't really even a plot line. It's just kind of something that happens and disappears, involving a pop star. Now, this involves her being this virgin who's having her virginity put up for auction at this gladiator match. And there's this video of Adam Driver having sex with her being displayed by Shia LaBeouf's character. And they arrest him and he goes to jail. But then, like, the Game of Thrones woman, she, they find out that she's actually of age. And she's actually not a virgin. And also the video got doctored. This happens, and then it's over. We don't get to see that pop star anymore. She's gone now. The movie focuses on something else. And it is so weird. There's a lot of... I know people are going to be in the comments saying some very fucking weird shit. But fuck it, I'm going to say it anyway. There's some very thinly veiled misogyny in this movie. Very thinly veiled. I'm not going to sit here... I'm not... God, it's just so... Like, it feels like old grandpa who's ranting about the good old days. That's what it feels like. It feels so weird, especially knowing what the fuck Coppola was doing behind the scenes and the way he tries to justify it. It just feels weird. You know, kissing extras to get them in the mood is just a big no-no for me. Like that's just fucking weird. That is weird. I don't care who you are. I don't care how big of a fan of Coppola you are. That is fucking weird. And that shit, that screams old school Hollywood, if you know what I mean. We have intimacy coordinators now. Niggas not just doing sex scenes off the cuff anymore. People actually are making sure that people are comfortable doing what they're doing. And what's even crazier about that fucking controversy, about that fucking, the allegations, is that scene goes by so fucking fast.
Yeah, now, well, the thing about the old days, the old days.
I sat here and thought about it. I said Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg are two filmmakers who have evolved with times. They've evolved as filmmakers and as people and realized that times have changed and people interest in things have changed too. And with that, their interest in storytelling has changed. With this movie, I think this movie is written by an old man who refuses to evolve, who refuses to change his perspective of the world because that's what he's used to. Those old, him going off on a tangent about woke culture and going off on the VFX vendors for apparently making it look like a Marvel movie despite their best interest to make it fucking viable. It's just, this movie's such a weird puzzle box of a movie. There are things about it that are great, incredible even, and then there are things about it that are just really bad and drag it on for so long. It is so bad in parts, and it's just so frustrating. And it's so, I hate to see a movie with wasted potential because I can see the potential. It's so frustrating. The story is there, and it's just like purposefully obtuse and purposefully cryptic about what he's trying to say with this movie. And it's so frustrating to watch it. I shouldn't have to read Roman history to understand your movie. I shouldn't have to do that. That shouldn't even be the case. I didn't have to read fucking The Outsiders to understand The Outsiders, or read Bram Stoker's Dracula to fully understand why Bram Stoker's Dracula was the way it was, or read the Godfather book to understand The Godfather. The movie should present itself the way it is, and to its credit, it kind of does that in the first half, but then completely loses itself in that second half. I watched this movie 2 times. The first time I fucking hated this movie. The second time, I was like, okay, I understand where he was trying to go. I actually like this movie a little bit better now. But, like, it's still a fucking mess of a movie. But the thing I will give this movie credit for, at least it's something we can talk about. This is the movie that is split the film community down the middle. People love it, people hate it. Megalopolis is a movie that's going to be talked about for years, whether a lot of people like it or not. It's a movie that presents itself and then acts like what it's presenting is so groundbreaking and shattering, but really it's just kind of nothing. Yeah, my brain hurts. This movie made my brain hurt.